It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Ezra Pesach Gorodetsky, 90 years young. Ezra, you look amazing. You really do.
I don't believe it.
Ezra, you mentioned that you've been in Israel many years, but you were born in America.
What?
You were born in America?
I was born in Philadelphia in America, yes.
90 years ago.
Yes.
Very, very young.
1928. And in honor of my birthday, all the banks closed in 29.
A year later. And where did your parents come from, Ezra?
My father's family came from Ukraine, a little village called Zvinogorodka. And I have documents from that city. My mother's father was born in London. My mother's mother was born in Poland on the German border.
Near Poland.
I'm a Zionist. And I have been a Zionist since the age of 2.
Your parents were also Zionists?
No. My parents were not Zionists. And when they learned, when I was about 12, that I was interested, they never discussed Zionism because they knew I was going to leave one day.
Were they very religious, your parents?
Yes, but the problem with how I learned Zionism was I was taken at the age of 2 or 2.5 across the street in Philadelphia, where my grandmother's sisters lived. Aunt Lizzie and Aunt Celie, that's their American names. And I'm opposed to American names today. They were very generous with me. Aunt Celie was never married. And she would sit me on the sofa after I played on the floor a while, and she would show me pictures of Palestine. So I already knew what those pictures were. And then she would wind the clock on the mantelpiece, and she had an engraving that may have come from a Bible of Moses. And she took this down and said, "This is your great uncle. He was the greatest man who ever lived." And Aunt Lizzie taught me a number of prayers, took me down the cellar to pick out jam, and was very generous with me all my life. And my grandmother had 4 sisters, and each one was like a grandmother. And whenever I heard anything of Zionism, I got a little interested. I didn't think of living here. But when I was about 11, boats were coming to America. The St. Louis came, filled with refugees, and they had no visas. There was no entry. The boat went back to Germany. Men, women, and children were arrested and sent to concentration camps.
And do you remember that incident?
I don't remember that one that well. But I remember saying to myself, I'm not going to stay here. Because we're brainwashed in school and told that the doors of America are open for people who have no other place to go. 2 more boats came, a few months apart, and no entry. They were sent to South America. and the German U-boat sunk one. And 2 months later, or 3 or 4 months later, they sunk the second one. And I said, I'm going to live in Palestine. Didn't discuss it too much, because people thought, you know, when you mention Palestine, well, you're going to ride on a camel? What in the hell are you going to eat? Because you're damn particular. I found it wasn't good to discuss going to Palestine. When I was 12, my father was a reader of newspapers and magazines, and he read from line to line. I went to my father. He was reading, and I tried to talk about Palestine. Not Palestine, a Jewish land. And my father said, there is a Jewish land, it's Palestine, and your work in school is so bad that you can't get by that way. He said, when you want to discuss Palestine, do your work first, and then we'll talk about that. So I just didn't mention it. But my parents learned not to discuss Palestine in front of me. And the few times I did say I'm going to Palestine, people, well, I kept quiet. When I was 20, I went to a meeting, a 3-day meeting in the Pocono Mountains at a fantastic restaurant and place for girls to come and dance. People went there to ski, and I sat on a Friday night with 10 people. 2 people there were just married and had just come back from Palestine, from Israel. I beg your pardon. It was 1950. And I told them, and I shouldn't have said anything, that I'm going to go to Palestine. They said, you're going where? You must be crazy. It's a place where they don't even know how to treat religious people. They said, it's terrible. You'll come back. When I was here 50 years, I called them. They were in Philadelphia, outside Philadelphia. First of all, they have a son who's a doctor here now. And they didn't remember saying it was bad, because they said it was very good now. And I said, well, you told me I would be back. And many people, when I was coming here, said, Ezra, you're only going for a month, but when you feel the heat, when you feel the hamsin, you'll be back. I love it here.
So when did you come to Israel?
I came in 1960. I came for a month. I had food poisoning.
When you arrived?
I did something every day, one thing, and then I came home and went to bed. I was as sick as a dog. I called my father after the month and I said, Daddy, I have to stay another month. My father said, come home now, out very loud. I stayed another month. I called my father again and I said, Daddy, you know, the holidays are coming. You don't expect me to come home yet, do you? He said, yes, right now. I said, well, I'm staying another 2 months. I stayed. I packed my bag to go back home to America. I had met Shin Zion Kohana, who was with the Ministry of Religion, and he offered me a job about 20 times. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm going home. I got ready to go home. My bag was packed. I'm leaving in 2 or 3 days. I had to go to Nesher and make the arrangement to take me to the airport.
Were you living in Yerushalayim?
Yeah, I was. I had to go to Nesher. That was 2 blocks away. Instead, I went about 7 blocks away to the King David Hotel. I had a brandy and I had a tea. And I had them outside on the patio. And I felt very bad. I didn't get to the old city. It felt terrible. After a while, I turned around and I saw through the window Shin Zion Kohana, who was sitting in the lobby reading a terrible magazine, but he read it. And I walked over to him to say goodbye. And I don't know what happened to my tongue. I said, is the job still open? He said, yes. I said, I'll take it. And it was 11 years I was here before I went back to America to visit. But I went back with Israeli papers, Israeli passport, and I had returned my nationality to America. I'm not a Yankee Doodle Dandy. And I'm very happy here. And I'm happy.
Israel, did you have any family? Any
The
other
happiest
family?
moments is when I see rain. And I'm a collector. I think collecting is a disease.
Or a passion? Could be a passion?
Well, no, I did the right thing with it. I've given it away to different institutions, which makes it not so bad. But when I see people selling to Sotheby's and the Christie's, and how did I become a collector? When I was 8 years old, or 9 years old, 8 years old, we went to see my grandfather's sister, who I had never seen. I wasn't out in the house. She went to the doctor's. So we took the car and we went another few blocks to my grandmother's sister. I had never been in her home. Her husband had a very bad back. They were looking through the Sunday paper, and he told my grandfather he has a lot of pain. And he said, you know, I sleep on a board. And we went upstairs, myself and my 2 little brothers, to the back room, and we saw the board, and then we stopped in the middle room. The middle room had a collection in glass cases of pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, $50 and silver dollars that he had saved through the years, and miniature buildings that he built. It was interesting. I wasn't so interested in the collection as I was in the buildings, and I'm still interested in the miniature buildings. 2 years later, I was at his daughter's home, and I had been there many times, but this time was different. It was me and my mother, Esther took us upstairs to the third floor, and she showed us that she collects little glass lamps that are about 100 years old, kerosene lamps. I saw red glass and blue glass, and I came home. My grandfather and I had a little conversation. I said, "Grandpa, I'm going to be a collector." And he said, "What are you going to collect?" "I'm going to collect photographs from the family and family documents." Through the years, I had built a collection of family photographs of 7 generations of the family, 1,500 photographs. That's at the National Library today. About 2 years later, my grandfather passed away, and I went to the synagogue, Spanish and Portuguese, opened the box where my grandfather sat, and there was a little book like that. And I began collecting those little books. I think I built a collection of about 150 books. I don't have 150 now. I think I have about 90, and they're all in the library.
The National Library?
Yes.
You donated them?
I donated it. Then I began about 2 years later with children's ABCs, but alphabet, taught in Hebrew schools. And then dedications of synagogues. And then I do something very crazy. I look at books very carefully, and they're torn a little bit here. I open bindings. And I have found 2 letters written to the Ari. It's in the National Library today. I've opened so far about 2,000 bindings. I've had about 200 major finds.
What was the most important find?
I found things. Well, one amazing find was I went to New Jersey, and I stopped to see a man. He was making things, and he had all the, and his prices were too high. I didn't have the money anyway. But on his table, there was a piece of parchment, a quarter of a page. I didn't know the age. I said it must be around 18th century. It might be. Took it home. It was Hebrew on both sides. Means it came from a book. That was in 1958. In 1970, I was opening a binding, and I took out 60 fragments, or 62 or 64 fragments, from all kinds of things. One fragment was like a schmata. It was immortal. It was parchment. I took it out. I dried it. It was a very light brown on one side and a darker color on the other side. I went to the library. I took my piece out. And this is in my little kitchen. And I put that piece here. I put my piece here. And I just did this. And I had a half a page. A quarter of the page here, a quarter from New York, from Philadelphia, from New Jersey.
It was the same.
I gave that to the library, and my dating of 18th century was wrong. It's 13th century.
13th century. Unbelievable.
And it's from the Bible. It's from Genesis.
In Hebrew.
In Hebrew.
A manuscript. It's handwritten.
Yes.
Handwritten.
See, so there are finds and there are finds.
Ezra, can I just ask, to open up a binding, it must be very difficult to...
Well, there's different ways, and you have to test before you open. I was in Egypt. I was at a man's home who writes on the Bible. He speaks French and he doesn't speak Hebrew and he doesn't speak English, and I couldn't understand what he was saying, but he had a great Hebrew library that he got for nothing. Because Jews were told that was Zionistic material, throw it away or you'll go to jail. So he found many things. I said, that book up there, I would like to see it. And he took it down. It was parchment. And I'm doing this a little bit. And I'm opening the binding. And he said, do you want that binding? I said, yes. I want that. He gave me the binding. He said, don't touch any more books. I went back to the hotel. I spent the whole night opening that binding because it had paper glued to it, and the separation was terrible. It turned out to be a Saloniki Ketubah from 1729.
What did you say? Wow.
I was in somebody's home.
That's amazing.
And I saw a book many times. I never touched the book. And I said I would like to take a look at that book. And he said that was my grandfather's book. He took a look at it. And I said, you know, there's nothing in the binding. But I would like the back, the spine of the book. And I said, no way. We argued for about 45, 50 minutes. I paid them for a new binding. And we took it off. It was a parchment back, and the other side was 50 rabbis had signed this letter about 1850.
Unbelievable.
And all those things went to the library.
And what have they done in the library? Have they exhibited it in the library?
They don't exhibit. Sometimes they do exhibit.
But not,
First of all, when I made my mind up that it was going to the library, I went to meet people at the library. I met Miss Number 2 man. Very nice person. Paid by the university. It was university people who took care of the library at that time. And he said, didn't know me. He said, you know, maybe you want to hold on to your things. Well, I was very disappointed. And I left the office and I went downstairs to the manuscript department. I met Rafi Weiser. And Rafi said, bring in 30 items and we'll pick out what we want. I don't want that either. That's not what I want. Ezra, keep quiet. Behave. I brought the 30 items in. They said, where did you get that? How much did you pay? You got that 30 years ago? And you paid what, $2? It's worth $50 to $60. They took the 16 items. They took the 30 items. Everything. I came back about 5 days later with 50 pieces. They took the 50 pieces. Where did you get it? How much did it? Well, and this went on until I brought 900 items. But on about the third trip, they told me two things. They said, Ezra, you have to know, there'll be no catalog and there'll be no showing.
Wow, why not?
Because I can't promise you those things. But after about the sixth time or the fifth time, Rafi Weiser said, Ezra, don't move. I'm going upstairs to get you a date for a show. He came back. He said, you have a date next year for a show. It gives us time to work on them and do things. No catalog. They did a catalog. They didn't do a whole catalog. They did about 200 items in the catalog. They did a fantastic show.
And was open to the public?
The show was in 1989.
And a lot of people attended?
What?
A lot of people attended the show?
Oh, it was in the evening. I think several hundred people attended. They did two other shows also that were very small. Show of Shana Tova cards and a show of dedications of synagogues. And then when I was 79, I was in the library and they said, you know, the office wants to talk to you. I went up to the office and they said, you know, Ezra, you're going to be 80. We're going to do a show. They did another show and I illustrated, I have the pictures and it was great. And Isaac Vandenboe was there.
And Ezra, you have no regrets.
What?
You could have, a few of the items you could have put on the major auction houses, Christie's or Sotheby's, and you could be a multi-millionaire, but you have no regrets that you gave it to the National Library. You have no regrets that you gave it to the National Library, that you donated.
I have a regret. If I would have done that dirty business of going to Sotheby's or Christie's,
or any auction house,
I would be ashamed.
Wow, because this
that I did what I did, because what we don't have here, you have no right to sell. It doesn't belong to me. The Almighty gave me the power to find these. He didn't give me the power to sell them. I have no right to do that.
That is so amazing, Ezra. I wish other people would follow in your footsteps, but
No, not exactly. I would like something else. I'd like a collector to say, I'm going to sell, but you don't have it. Come and pick 4 or 5 things out that you want, and then sell. Give, and what you don't want, we'll sell.
Yeah. That's true.
I have only sold one item that they wanted. And the reason I sold it is I wanted to visit my father. And I got $1,200 for the item. It was a ketubah. I gave them a few ketubot. I gave them one on paper that was 19th century. I gave one on parchment, which was 18th century. I gave my grandmother's ketubah from Svinigorotka, beautiful little ketubah. I gave my parents. I'm opposed to the selling.
Yeah.
And I think the government is making a mistake in not going after these auctioneers. Of course, there are things that you're not allowed to sell. And the government might even confiscate them. If you, for instance, if you found a Dead Sea Scroll, you would not be allowed to sell it.
Well, Ezra, it's interesting. There was a Menachem Begin speech.
What?
Menachem Begin, he had a speech, a handwritten speech that was going on auction, and then at the last moment, it was taken off the auction. There was from Menachem Begin, there was a speech that was going to go on auction here in Jerusalem a few months ago, and at the last moment, there was an outcry and it was taken off the auction because it belongs to the nation and not in private hands.
Yes.
So so what you're saying is 100%.
Do you have that?
No. It was, I think, donated to the National Library, but it didn't go into private hands because it's part of it belongs to...
Well, no, I had another experience. I have another friend, I haven't seen him for about a year now. Avram should have been the next director of Shocking Library. But he was fired. Who fired him? The people who own the building. It belongs to the Jewish Theological Seminary. And he was very careful. But before that happened, I was in to talk to Avram. And Avram took me upstairs to what was Shokin's living room in the library. And he said, look, I'll give you that whole wall for your collection. We came downstairs to his office. And I said, Avram, I'm not giving anything to the Jewish Theological Seminary. He said, no, it belongs to the Shocking collection. I said, but the building doesn't belong to them anymore. They gave it to the seminary. The silence was broken. I knew something that nobody here knew. I was in New York a year before, and I was at Sotheby's. And I overheard the conversation on the phone in English. that Shotgun were going to sell some books. They were at an auction. And I had to keep quiet. I had this information already for a year. And I said to him, you know that Shotgun's going to sell part of the collection. Avram laughed at me. He said, nothing doing. The former curator, fellow who was taking his job, was sitting there, and he called him in and he said, is Shotgun's going to sell books? No. There's going to be no sale. We never heard of such a thing. A few months went by, and Avram learned that Ezra is not a fool.
Wow.
Shotgun is planning to sell some books. And they had a list of what they're selling. Avram began contacting various people to come in, make a donation, and buy these books for Shotgun's library. They already belong to... He contacted one person in New York who came here, came very often. Can't think of the name. And that person went to the National Library. He said, you know, we can stop the sale. I will raise the money to buy the books you want at Shotgun that they're going to sell. They're not going to sell everything. And that's what he did. He raised the money, and they had to sell to the library first what they wanted, and then you can sell. They sold to the library, and then the rest of the books were sold in New York. And I was there for breakfast one morning. And we heard the voice at the door. We were in the front room. We heard the voice, Avram, you wanted upstairs. We want the keys for the... Avram never gave keys to anybody, nobody. We sat there eating. When we finished, Avram went upstairs. They said, you know, you're fired. You don't work here anymore.
After how many years?
And he went to court.
How many years was he working?
25 years. He went to court, and he lost in court twice. He wanted two things. He was there 25 years. They had to give him 25 months' salary and his pension. They said no. They said one or the other. So I think he took the pension, I'm not sure. So that's the way things go.
Ezra, on a lighter note,
What?
on a much lighter note, you collect buttons as well? You had a very big collection of buttons?
Not big, it's very small, about 200 buttons.
Okay, but what encouraged you, or what led you to collect buttons? It's a very unusual collection.
It's unusual. I was in New York looking for Judaica, and I passed a shop that dealt only in antique buttons. And I saw buttons like I never saw. Each one was a treasure. And I just got buttons this year. 2 buttons. They're silver, and they're cast, and they were $300, and I got them. It makes my collection more Israeli.
And what did you do with the collection?
What?
What have you done with that collection?
That collection is now at Ramat Gan, at Shadkar.
You donated it.
Yes. And I did something great because they didn't have a button collection. They have a clothing collection. But now they have a button collection.
Is this the only button collection in Israel?
No, I think there must be a few more. There's a fella who had a show in the Tel Aviv Museum of buttons, and he had thousands of buttons. I go to him and I buy buttons from him. He's not a collector. He is a collector. He is not a collector. He's in the business cash.
Okay.
I'm happy. But I bought from him about 75 buttons. That's a button.
I'm just going to zoom on. Wow. And where did that button come from, Ezra?
That button came from New York.
It's a very nice button.
I think it was $12 or $15. The inside is 2,000 years old.
Really?
And if I'm wrong, it's 1,800 years. And the outside is the beginning, is not the beginning, it's middle 19th century.
What is on the inside?
What?
What is on the inside?
Right here.
Yeah, but what is it made of? Or what is it?
It's stone.
It's a stone. It's very beautiful. Wow. And where did you get it from?
New York has a wonderful shop called Tender Buttons. And I'm waiting now for a letter to come from them of buttons that I'm going to be buying. I have no money.
Ezra, it's incredible. And Ezra, you told me that you you did something. I mean, you've done so many amazing things.
What?
You donated a flag from 1948.
Yes.
Can you elaborate and tell our listeners how you managed to get the flag?
I met a woman here who was she was an American to begin with. She came here in 1932. She died in 1966. I saw her very frequently for about 5 or 6 years. She was one of the founders of Hadassah. At the opening meeting in New York, she served with the American Army in World War I for the Jewish Welfare Board, making sure that Jews had somebody to bring them some things that might be kosher in France. She was the founder here in 1934 of the Palestine Society for Crippled Children, which is now Eileen. Not is she only the founder of these institutions and other institutions, she raised the money herself. And I think Hadassah was a little mad at it, because she also worked for Hadassah at times. She was here for many years, and in 1948, the American ambassador sent somebody here to her apartment and told her there's going to be a war. It's time for her to leave. And she said, that's why I came here. I came here to fight that we'll have our own homeland one day. And she didn't go home. Home is here. And in 1948, we had a terrible war. We lost almost half the country. And Rebecca could not go outside because her home was in a firing area on Rehov Jabotinsky. And she heard Ben-Gurion on the radio say that the flag will be 2 blue stripes and a blue star, and she decided to make a flag. She cut a bed sheet up. She cut out stripes and sewed them on May 14th, and a star.
The Star of David.
Something's wrong. The stripes were white. She didn't have any blue cloth. She took a blue crayon and she colored the stripes in. She died in the hospital. She was 82. And I saw her a few times there. The first time I went, she wasn't on talking terms with me. Because I got her into the hospital. I brought her family from America to sign their papers. But I talked. I spoke. And I said, Rebecca, I'm going to turn your archive over. It's very good. To the Archive Society here. And she looked at me and she said, I want 2 things. First of all, do not give them my flag, because they don't want it. Find a place for it. That went into my desk. And she said, look, I graduated the Jewish Theological Seminary, and I was assigned to a women's prison in 1909. And I was there for 10 years to go every Friday up to give those Jewish girls some treatment on religion and help them with their problems. And that's what she did. And she said, I have books with all the dates and all the information. That book, I want you to destroy it. Burn the book. I don't want anybody to have the names of those girls. I turned the library over to the Historical Society here. I worked on it for 3 months myself. And that book, I had to make the decision. I took the book there. And they agreed to bind it in a binding, an envelope, and to put on, it cannot be opened for 25 years. And they did that. I couldn't destroy that document. But, and after all those girls had got married anyway later, so the names would be. So I had that flag, and I lent that to David Geffen, and he exhibited it here. And then he returned the things, he didn't return the flag. And then he went off to America. And after a number of years, I decided he has my flag. I called America. I spoke to him. He said, we're exhibiting it at Emory University. And you're invited. So I went there, and I was there. They had it for a few years, and then I brought it back. I wanted to sell it. I had at least 8 or 10 or 12 different meetings with the state archivist, with people from the Knesset. Nobody was interested. Nobody was interested.
Why not?
In the flag at all. And I wanted $100,000 for it. Finally, David told a woman about a year and a half ago about the flag, an American lady, and she wasn't interested at all. Again, this year, he spoke to her again, and she said, I have to see the flag. We met in the restaurant. She saw the flag. She touched it. And she said, how much do you want for it? I said, something under $50,000. I could see that she liked the flag. That night, I learned that she said 25,000. And I said, nothing doing. I'm not selling. I got her phone number in New York, and I called her. And I said, look, I'm not selling for 25,000, but I would sell for 38,000. She said, look, I'm willing to pay 32,000. I said, you're not willing to pay 35? She said, yes. She bought the flag, and Emory got the flag. And they made a celebration, and when they had their annual meeting, it was on the screen with my... So it went. I also gave to the home of George Washington.
So where is the flag now?
What?
Where is the flag today?
The flag?
Yeah.
I had to go to Beersheba, to the university. I met with the dean of the school, and we took pictures and held the flag. Then I had to go to the kibbutz, where Ben Gurion lived.
Stay Boke.
They have there all Ben Gurion's papers in a vault. And we went down to the vault and we opened the flag and they took pictures, and then they folded the flag and put it next to his papers.
So it's in Stay Boke today.
Yes. And it will be exhibited in the new building that they're building for those papers.
And Israel, what happened with the money that she paid? Where did the money go? But yes, that helps, yeah.
That gave me money to go to Prague. That gave me money to go to America.
Yeah.
And I'm going to China to buy some stamps.
So now we're going to go on to the stamps.
What?
Now we're coming to the very interesting subject of, as you know, I'm very involved in stamps. When did you first start collecting stamps?
I collect, first of all, not only will I collect, I have a distant cousin here. He's very young. I think he's about 21 or 22. who became a stamp collector. I was at his home, and I saw his collection. It's worth about 3 cents American. It is nothing. It's what he tore off. I came back here on a bus, and I decided to give him half my collection. I have Napoleon. I gave him Napoleon. I gave him on glass, stamps on glass. I gave him on the fellow who discovered America,
Columbus.
I gave him a lot.
This is thematic.
Yes.
It's thematic stamps.
Well, so what do I collect? First of all, I collect stamps on printing. Number 1. Number 2, I have all the synagogues on stamps.
It's Judaica, from all the different countries.
When it comes to tea, I have 350 books on tea. I have books on teapots. I have individual cuttings. I have everything on tea. I also have stamps on tea. I also have coins on tea.
What made you so fascinated with tea? You like the taste?
My grandfather was English, and my grandmother said anybody who comes to our house has to have a cup of tea and a piece of cake.
Wow.
And she made tea about 25 times a day. So, I like tea. And I think tea is a wonderful thing. And I began collecting tea stamps about 58 years ago. And I'm missing a few. And I can't find what I'm looking for.
Maybe I can help you.
What do you collect in
Mine is Mozambique and Jerusalem.
What?
Postal history of Jerusalem and Mozambique. But I can help you. I can help you look for the stamps.
This has all the tea stamps.
So these are we're going to just show it to our viewers. So this is your collection of tea stamps.
Rego. No. These are the stamps I'm missing so far. You don't have them.
You can try look.
Well,
Ezra,
we'll look
I'll help
later.
you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
That's wonderful.
These are early stamps from countries that have tea.
Like you have Ceylon and
They're not tea, exactly. These have tea, and it says tea on the bottom. That's a tea stamp.
That's fascinating. Sure. You have from Zimbabwe.
These are tea, 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 tea. These are tea stamps, and they say tea on them.
Wonderful. Ezra, I can see you have a great passion for anything to do with tea. That's wonderful.
Tea stamp from India.
And I think you have from China at the bottom. Yeah. Wonderful. First aid covers, you've got miniature sheets. No, Ezra, got a
These
serious
are not
collection.
stamps. These
Yeah.
are only photographs.
Yeah, of the stamps. Yeah, but of a miniature sheet. Yeah.
These two stamps I do not have. So I have the envelopes in there. India. This is a stamp from the 1920s. Ceylon.
Ceylon, that's one of the major tea they're producing countries. Yeah. And have you ever belonged to a stamp club?
What?
Have you ever belonged to a stamp club, or have you gone to any stamp exhibitions?
I don't understand.
Any stamp clubs? Have you ever belonged to a club of stamps?
Yes.
And have you been to the exhibitions? Because they have many exhibitions in Israel. International exhibitions and national exhibitions.
It's not easy.
Yeah. But it's very nice what you have, Ezra. It's wonderful. I can see you're very passionate
See,
about it. Yeah?
they're all picking tea.
It's wonderful.
The processing of tea.
Fantastic. That's lovely, Ezra. That's lovely. Sure, you really do have a big collection. Wow, that's wonderful. And then you have banknotes on tea. Wow, so you can see you're very involved in
On money.
on banknotes.
Tea scenes on money.
Malawi, from Malawi, you can see from all the different countries. Tea cultivating. Yeah.
The delivery of tea. This camel has boxes of tea on it. These are from China. These are AMP. From China. It's very hard to find.
Yeah, it is. And they're not modern, so it's not easy to find. You're right.
Worth nothing.
But you've been collecting for many years, many years.
The delivery of tea. And one of the stamps has the word tea on it.
Wonderful. Ezra, I'm going to help you look for those that are missing.
What?
I'll take a note of the stamps that you are missing, and I'll try to help you look for those that you are missing.
Wait a minute. Here you have the Boston Tea Party.
Oh, so you have... It's really, really fascinating.
Then it comes into teapots. And then people drinking tea.
Sure.
See, now teapots.
That's incredible. And then, this is a really lovely collection.
From the Centennial. Teacups. The Chinese originally did not drink from a cup like a cup. They drank from bowls. A samovar, Russian.
That's right. I think it's still used today. They still use it today.
Yes. The samovar is very interesting. They made them in Russia, but the real samovars came from Turkey.
From Turkey, yeah. Today, even in Turkey, there's a special way that they do the Turkish tea.
Here we go again. Here we go again. People drinking tea.
It's lovely.
Tea drinking.
It's fascinating, really. Wow.
And when you walk into a store and you say you want books relating to tea, they say, we don't have anything. I go every year to a coin shop. Do you have any tea tokens? No. I go out, the guy must think I'm crazy. Last year I went into the shop and I said, do you have any tea tokens? No. I said, would you like to see a tea token? He said, yes. I showed him one. And then I said, you want to see more? I ping out about 10 pictures. And he says, you got these? I said, yes. I have 100 of them, all different. He did a thing for television on tea tokens. Now when I go in there, he says, you want a cup of tea?
And Ezra, where did you receive most of the material? Where did you get your stamps from, most of them? How did you
There
obtain
was a
them?
stamp collector at the bottom of Ben Yehuda Street. I got some from her, many from her. I got them in New York, I got them in London.
You've been collecting and on auctions? Have you bought on auctions?
Well, auctions I don't like to go to. You overpay.
Yeah. But you've been to stamp shops?
Yes.
And are you still very involved in looking for bindings?
What?
Today, do you go to different bookshops and you look for bindings? Once a collector, always a collector.
I can't say what I'm looking for when I'm looking. Because when they find a binding, they want more money. And there are many people opening bindings. And they all do a bad job. My job is very clean. Because I even do it for dealers.
Really, you have a...
Yes.
That's amazing. It's a special technique that you use. It must be a very...
There are about 3 or 4 different techniques. And you have to test first.
How did you learn it? Did anybody show you, or how did you learn the technique? How did you know how to do it?
I began learning when I was about 12 from a program put on by the seminary in New York called The Eternal Light, about Schechter. And that began my interest in
Schechter was the one,
bindings.
he was the one who found the chirogenese.
And I began opening bindings in America. I didn't have much luck. I did find things, nothing spectacular. The great luck was here.
And do you go often to the different bookshops to look for old books?
There's less bookshops today that have these things. But I must say, from 60 to 70, the books they were thousands of books. And they were taking the bookbinders, and the bookbinders were finding things.
And have you ever looked at Seamus or things that are in Genizas?
Look, I worked for Rabbi Poppenheim, and he bought books also for somebody in Switzerland. and he bought a book from a London book collector who was dead, Sassoon. He bought a book, and he was going to sell it to London, and the binding was terrible. The binding was absolutely no good, and he was going to ask a lot of money. It was a 17th century book. He didn't buy the book yet. The book's on the dining room table. The guy sitting there who's selling the book, and Ezra is sitting there looking at there's
binding.
something in this binding. First of all, Poppenheim got very angry with me. He didn't pay for it yet, and you're tearing it apart. He bought the book. And then he threw the book at me. I took the book and I went home with the book. I got all my tools. And then I went to a photographer. And we opened, I took the book out of the binding. And he photographed it. And I did every step I did, he photographed. So I have a complete file showing what I did. I found in the book, first of all, the outside pages were worth saving. They were beautiful 18th century wallpaper. That was number one. Number two, I found a riddle, a printed riddle on one side of the binding for an Italian Jewish wedding.
Wow.
For the same wedding, on the other side of the binding was one that was written, a riddle. And I have both those things from the 18th century. And I returned the book. Ha 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 ha. I was waiting for him to say, do I get the rest of it? He didn't say. That's the way things go.
Amazing. Ezra, that's really incredible. So you're like a detective.
And I also have in my collection a printing press. Have you been to the library?
Yeah.
Did you see the printing?
I've seen, yeah.
That's mine.
You donated that as well?
Yes.
Wow. Where did you get it? How did you obtain
A
it?
fellow came here from Australia, and he inherited that press. He thought it was 18th century, because the date is 18th. That's when they began business. It's not the date. The date is 1863. And I fell in love with that press. And I went to him and I said, look, I'll buy the press and you can use it. He said, well, you think I'm crazy? I'm going to sell it? No. When he died, his sister was a friend of mine, and she was going to sell the press to the firm that made it in England. We had an argument for about 6 weeks, and I bought the press. It was $2,500.
And they shipped it here?
No, it was here.
It was here already?
He brought, when he made Aliyah, he brought the press. They have my chess set. My chess piece set is porcelain. It's blue and white. And the pieces are, the little men have mug and dovets in the front. There's the Kohen and the king and the...
I mean, this is incredible.
and I gave about 20 items to the Israel Museum.
You've given to the Israel Museum as well?
What?
To the Israel Museum, not
Yes.
only the National Library, the Israel
Yes.
Museum. And do they exhibit it? Is it maybe from time to time?
They've exhibited 2 of the pieces. They're not on exhibition now. One is a tiny Japanese teapot from about 1900.
Wow.
And the other is a gold cap for ladies to wear. The end of the 18th, the beginning of the 19th century. And that cost me $1,000.
How did you get it?
What?
How did you obtain it? How did you...
My boss bought it. I don't know what he paid for it. He didn't pay that price. He might have paid $30 or $40, I don't know.
That's incredible. Ezra, wow, you have... I know you've been featured many times in the Jerusalem Post. How many articles have been written in the Jerusalem Post about your various collections?
Full pages about 20 times.
20 times. And you had a very...
And magazines, there was 4 different magazines.
But there was a very wonderful publication that they did, a very
Yes.
nice article in the magazine. Not that
I
long
have
ago.
each one now in plastic. And they melted the plastic so you can't take the document out. Because you want to show it, and people handled it.
It's laminated. They
Yes.
laminated it.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's amazing, Ezra. Your story, it can go into many books. They could make a movie on it. You have a most
There's
fascinating...
another book came out 2 years ago. It's called A Book in Books. It's about people who find fragments. And there's an article in there by a man by the name of Mr. David, who works for the Jewish Theological, who works for the library. And he speaks about my find, and he mentions me about 20 times in the article.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And the book was damn expensive. I think the book cost me almost $100.
Wow. But Ezra, it's been, I must tell you, it has been really such a tremendous honor to listen to your fascinating, you have such a wonderful and such a colorful, and not only your experience and what you've done and what you've achieved, it really is remarkable. And what message would you give to young aspiring collectors? What would your advice be? What would your advice be to young collectors or people who want to do something similar to what you did? What advice would you give? Or to anybody?
Well, I find that most collectors have lots of money and no knowledge. They don't even know what they're collecting. And they're paying fantastic prices. Things used to cost $2 and $10 and $50 and $200. There's no $2 things left.
That's true.
What was $2 and now it's £200.
So your advice, what advice would you give? What advice would you give aspiring collectors or somebody who wants to collect? What advice would you give? What advice would you give to aspiring collectors?
I have to talk to them first.
And that they should get the knowledge. They should read up and...
Oh, if they gave me money, I can collect.
But
I have also thought, and I didn't do anything about it, I would like to see a collection of judges, Jewish judges. I think a judge is the highest position you can have.
So
And
Jews-
some of the decisions, good
yeah.
and bad, have been made by judges.
So this could be a collection with photographs, with stamps, with letters. It could be
There are not that many stamps of judges.
yeah, but it could be letters from judges. It could be photographs of judges. There's a lot.
I'm working on something else now. I'm working on from the ninth and 8th century to the beginning of the 16th century of books, Hebrew books with illustrations that have hand painted.
Wow.
And I have most of them, many of them. And I've had them for years, but they're not in Seder, right Seder.
Don't need the
Now
right
I'm
order.
putting him in place date-wise, and it's not so easy.
So how did you obtain? I'm sure all our listeners would. How did you obtain these manuscripts?
What?
How did you receive them? How did you obtain these manuscripts? These are manuscripts. These books. How did you obtain them? How did you get them?
Oh, no, those are not books. Those are newspaper clippings and
Oh,
catalog clippings.
and you putting it all
I
together.
don't have originals.
Because originals would be extremely rare.
Yes.
Extremely. That's
Billions.
and that's very expensive. That's that goes into major libraries. Yeah. To have
I also have a desk, 2 desks. I have one that is from the about 1930s, which belonged to Rebecca Afrashida, and I have one that's 500 years old. It's a box like this, and it opens, and it has an inlay of mother of ivory, and half of it is missing. And I don't have the money to put the ivory back.
but you have the original. That's the original.
See, I'm missing that stamp.
Ezra, it's been such an honor and a privilege to speak to you and to hear your passion and what you've achieved and what you've donated. And I think what we can all take from this is that
Well, I'll tell you the truth. What I have donated doesn't mean very much. But when an article is published by another author, and he has gone to my collection and he's taken information out, and then he mentions under the article, it was found by Ezra Gordeski, that's the glory.
that gives you a lot of satisfaction. But Ezra, a tremendous satisfaction must be that what you have donated in the National Library is now in the public domain, and people can
I
researchers.
donated one book. I donated one book that was worth $100,000.
Wow. What was
It
that
was
book?
a small book on parchment, that size, with prayers for Shabbat that were not in the regular siddur, and some illustrations. And whenever, at beginning of the 18th century, and when these books come up for sale, I would say they're worth about $30,000, but they really sell for $100,000. That's the auctioneering halls can do that.
But how did you get it? How did you get that book? Do you remember how you got it?
I got that from a woman whose husband was a collector. And I worked with his collection, and he told me, this book is not mine, it's my wife's. It was in his showcase. And I was partially responsible for sending the books back to England. And we sent the things off to England. I went there to her apartment. She had a velvet crown for a Sefer Torah.
Wow.
Velvet. And I offered to buy it. And she said, no, she's not selling it. She's going to sell that to who bought the rest of the collection. They'll buy it. But she needed money. She needed money for something I don't understand what it was about. And she said she would sell me that piece, that little book, for $1,000. And I said, I'll have the money. I bought it for $800. I bought the book for $800. That's what I wanted to spend for the crown. But I bought it with the condition, and I wouldn't keep the condition, that she could buy it back.
Really?
I don't know what the trouble was at that moment. A judge here in Israel, who I was very friendly with, Ben Zimra, told me when she moved, she came back several times in the summer, and I was with her all the time and doing things for her. Ben Zimra told me, I was going to his house for dinner, he said, Ezra, you are going to get into trouble because you are with her. She's a thief.
Wait.
She is invited to dinner. She goes to powder her nose, and something's missing in the ladies' room. She picks up gold things. Well, first of all, I got very insulted. I didn't act that way, but and I went with her to the jeweler. She had a few gold bracelets and a few other things. And she had a pearl like that. And the guy says to her, you know, that's not a pearl. It's a piece of glass. So I don't know where she got it. Nobody would tell me that she did these things. But I stopped going out with her. But I was still seeing her. And in 1966, yes, in 66, I saw her in New York. No, wait. Yes, I was in New York in 66. She called Mrs. Cardoza, and she said she had to see me. It was very urgent. So they said, come for Friday night dinner. She came for Friday night dinner. she went to powder her nose. And I learned a few months later that she stole
Oi.
2 bracelets from the bedroom, and she stole something from me. A little gold badge that I was going to give to a museum in Connecticut. But I learned that she was here that summer after that. I didn't know that information yet. And she wanted 3 things. I always gave her what she wanted because I had many duplicates. Thing number 1 was an author in Russia published one of her husband's things, and he had no right to do it. And I knew who it was. She wanted his name, but from my past experience, she would try to get him fired from whatever I called him. And he said, no, he doesn't want to meet her at all. Keep quiet, Ezra, because he gave me the book. And she wanted to borrow the book. She had a copy. Wherever she borrowed, she rarely ever gave it back to me. Because she gave it to somebody. Well, if she gave that book to somebody else, I wouldn't get it again. And I said, no, thank you. She left here 3 days later, or 4 days, or 5 days later. She was very angry with me. And she called, I don't know how many people, to tell them Ezra was very bad. When he comes, slap him.
Wow.
So I go to Colitz's for lunch, and they said, they were laughing, and they said, Ezra, what did you do? Yeah. And I told them, and other people told me the same thing. So I was in New York that summer, and I saw her in the synagogue, and she said, why didn't you call me? I said, because you did a very nasty thing. When you left, you told people to slap me.
Boy, that's a terrible
because I did the wrong thing. So that's the way things go. I hope that won't be on the tape.
Okay. Yeah. So Ezra, I just want to hold on.